They threw me out of the mansion I'd secretly paid for because I was embarrassing their important guests. I didn't cry or scream. I smiled, locked my purse, and left with a folder they assumed was just worthless photocopies. The house they called theirs was actually in whose name tonight. All of Crestwood Hills would find out. When the doorbell rang in the middle of their party, I stepped up to the microphone. "Son, I came to apologize and to sign over the truth. My name is Eleanor Whitaker, and at 67 years old, I never imagined I'd be standing in the foyer of my own home, being asked to leave like an unwanted guest." The crystal chandelier above cast prismatic light across Sloane's new diamond necklace, the one she'd been adjusting every 5 minutes to ensure her guests noticed. My daughter-in-law had transformed the Westlake Ridge villa into something unrecognizable, stark white furniture, replacing the warm oak pieces Daniel and I had chosen together. Abstract art covering walls where family photos once hung. "Eleanor, you're early," Sloane said, her heels clicking against the Italian marble she'd insisted on installing last month. "The dinner isn't until 7. "You said 6:30 in your text," I replied, holding up my phone. She laughed, that tinkling sound she'd perfected at her sorority. "Oh, I meant for guests to arrive at 7. Family should know to come later. Give us time to prepare." Family. The word stung more than it should have. I'd been demoted from mother to mere relative, from essential to optional. Daniel emerged from his study, what used to be my reading room, adjusting his tie. My son had his father's broad shoulders, but none of his backbone. "Mom, you're here. Good. We need to talk before everyone arrives." Everyone. I glanced at the catering staff arranging appetizers I couldn't pronounce. "I thought this was a family dinner to clear the air." "It is," Sloane interjected, her smile sharp as winter ice. "Our chosen family, the Harrisons from the club, the Brennans from Daniel's firm, a few others who actually understand our lifestyle." Our lifestyle. As if I hadn't worked double shifts for 30 years, saved every penny, and sacrificed my own comfort to ensure Daniel could have this life. "Sit down. Mom." Daniel gestured to the velvet settee in the foyer, not even the living room. I was being received like a door-to-door salesperson. I sat, my worn leather purse heavy on my lap. Inside, the brown envelope seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. "We need to discuss boundaries," Daniel began, his voice taking on the corporate tone he used for firing contractors. We both feel that there have been some tensions." "Tensions?" I kept my voice level. "Is that what we're calling it when she changed the locks last month while I was at my doctor's appointment?" "You had a key made without asking," Sloane said, examining her manicured nails. "That's a violation of privacy." "To the house I stopped myself. Not yet. To my son's home. I've had a key to Daniel's home since he was 22. Things change, Eleanor. Daniel's married now. He has a real family. Real family. There it was. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "Mum, please. Tonight's important. The Brennans are considering Daniel for the Singapore project. We need everything to be perfect." "And I'm not perfect enough." Sloane's laugh was like breaking glass. "Eleanor, you wore the same dress to 3 events. You brought store-bought cookies to the charity auction. You told Mrs. Harrison that story about Daniel wetting the bed until he was 8. He was 5, and she asked about funny parenting moments. The point is," Daniel interrupted, his jaw tight, "we need you to apologize." The word hung in the air like a challenge. Apologize for what? Exactly. For making Sloane uncomfortable in her own home. For the snide comments about her redecorating. For implying she married me for money at the anniversary party. I hadn't implied it. I'd asked her cousin why Sloane's father had filed for bankruptcy 3 times, a different thing entirely. So, you want me to apologize to keep the peace? We want you to apologize because it's the right thing to do, Sloane said, standing now, towering over me in her 5-inch heels. Or you can leave. Tonight. Choose. I studied my son's face, searching for the boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who'd cried when I'd bandaged his scraped knees, who'd promised he'd take care of me when I got old. That boy was gone, replaced by this stranger in an Armani suit. I need a moment, I said, standing slowly. May I use the powder room? The one in the pool house, Sloane directed. The guest bathroom is being prepared for tonight. The pool house, not even worthy of the indoor facilities. I walked through the house I'd helped choose, past the kitchen where I'd taught Daniel to make his grandmother's soup, through the French doors I'd insisted on because they reminded me of my childhood home. In the pool house bathroom, I opened my purse and touched the brown envelope one more time. The original deed to the property, not a copy. The one document that showed the Truth Whittaker Family Trust, with Eleanor Whittaker as sole trustee. They thought they were so clever. But tonight, they'd learn that a mother's love might be patient, but it's never blind. I looked at myself in the mirror, 67 years old. Silver hair, laugh lines earned through decades of hard work, and smiled. Walking back through the garden, I could see them through the windows, Sloane directing the staff with imperious gestures, Daniel checking his phone, both oblivious to what was coming. I've made my decision, I announced, returning to the foyer. They turned to me expectantly. I choose to leave. I headed for the door, my purse clutched tight. Enjoy your party. Mum. Daniel started. No, Daniel. You've made your choice clear. Your wife needs her space, and I'll give it to her. Sloane's triumphant smile was almost worth what was coming next. As I reached the door, I turned back one last time. Oh, and Sloane. That dress is stunning. Shame you won't get to wear it to many more parties here. I left before she could respond. The brown envelope safe in my purse. The deed to their mansion, my mansion waiting for its moment. The night shift at Ridgeline Construction paid time and a half. But that wasn't why I took it. Working from 11 at night to 7 in the morning meant I could be home when Daniel got back from school. Help with homework, make dinner, and tuck him in before heading back out into the darkness. Single motherhood was a mathematics of hours, and I'd become an expert accountant long before I officially became one. I remember the weight of the hard hat on my head, the way concrete dust settled into every crease of my clothing, how my fingers went numb entering numbers into the system during winter nights in the trailer office. The other workers called me college, a joke about my associate degree in accounting from the community college. But that degree, earned one night class at a time over 6 years, was what eventually got me off the construction site and into the front office. Daniel never knew how close we came to losing everything. The month his father's life insurance ran out, killed by a drunk driver when Daniel was 3, I sold my wedding ring to keep the electricity on. He never knew I ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch every day for 3 years so he could have hot meals. He never knew because I never told him. That was my gift to him, a childhood unburdened by our reality. 22 years later. He graduated from Engineering School Columbia, no less. I sat in that auditorium, my clearance rack dress hidden among designer outfits, and cried. My boy had made it. We had made it. The job offer from Argent Ridge Developments came with a starting salary that made my eyes water, more than I'd ever made in a year, and he was just beginning. He found a nice apartment downtown, started dating, built his life. I was so proud I could barely contain it. Then came Sloane. She swept into his life at a company gala, all gleaming hair and perfect teeth. The daughter of Harrison Carver old money that had become no money, though she hid it well. Within 6 months, they were engaged. She had opinions about everything. The ring wasn't big enough. Daniel took out a loan. The wedding venue wasn't grand enough. I emptied half my retirement account. The honeymoon wasn't long enough. Daniel used all his vacation time and then some. Mum. She makes me want to be better. He'd told me over coffee, back when we still had our weekly breakfast dates. Better than what I'd asked. But he didn't answer. The house hunting started immediately after the honeymoon. Sloane had requirements, minimum 5 bedrooms, pool, guest house, the right zip code. Daniel's credit was good, but stretched thin from the wedding. Sloane's credit was a disaster, something about her father's business ventures, she'd said vaguely. The banks would approve a loan, but not enough for what Sloane wanted. That's when I made my mistake, or my sacrifice. I still don't know which. I have $300,000 in my retirement account, I told Daniel privately. We were in my small apartment, the one I'd lived in for 15 years, saving everything I could. I could liquidate it for the down payment. His face had lit up like Christmas morning when he was 7, when I'd managed to buy the bike he'd wanted despite the layoffs at the construction company. Mum, I couldn't. It's an investment, I said, the words tasting like chalk. Real estate always appreciates. But I wasn't stupid. I'd learned from 30 years of watching contracts, of seeing how quickly verbal promises evaporated. One condition: the house goes into a family trust. Whitaker Family Trust. I'll be the trustee initially. You'll be the beneficiary. And when I pass, it transfers fully to you. It protects the asset from any potential creditors or complications. Daniel had agreed immediately. Sloane, when told, had been less enthusiastic. It's insulting, she'd said at dinner, pushing her $40 salmon around her plate. Like you don't trust me. It's standard estate planning, I'd replied calmly. My accountant recommended it. My accountant was May Delaney, my neighbour, who'd worked in banking for 40 years before retiring. She'd seen too many horror stories to let me hand over my life savings without protection. The papers were drawn up by Nolan Rusk, an old friend from my construction days who'd gone to law school nights while working security. The trust was ironclad. I was the sole trustee, Daniel the beneficiary, and any changes required my written, notarized consent. The villa in Westlake Ridge was perfect, Sloane's dream home. 6 bedrooms, infinity pool, guest house, the works. Purchase price $850,000. My $300,000 down. Daniel qualified for the rest. At closing, I signed the papers with a steady hand while my heart hammered. 3 decades of 16-hour days collapsed into a signature. We'll pay you back, Mom, Daniel had whispered, hugging me. Just be happy. I'd said, that's payment enough. For a year, it was good. Sunday dinners, holiday gatherings, even the occasional shopping trip with Sloane where she'd pick out clothes for me that I'd return later, keeping one small item to make her feel successful. Then her father's bankruptcy hit the news. Harrison Carver, investment fraud. Sloane's family money wasn't just gone, it had never really existed. The house of cards collapsed, taking with it her parents' home, their cars, their reputation. Suddenly, my financial sacrifice wasn't a generous gesture. It was a reminder of who really held the power. Every family dinner became tense. Every mention of the house carried weight. "Your mother likes to remind us who owns the roof over our heads," Sloane told Daniel, loud enough for me to hear from the kitchen. I hadn't reminded anyone of anything, but the truth has a way of making itself known, even in silence. The photos started disappearing first. Our family pictures, replaced by Sloane's sorority sisters and society friends. Then the furniture I'd helped pick donated to charity without asking. Then my key privileges were revoked for security reasons. But I kept the deed. The original. Not a copy. Stored in my safety deposit box at first. Then transferred to my home safe. And finally, carried in my purse like a talisman. Nolan had warned me, "Keep it close, Eleanor. Documents have a way of disappearing when money's involved." He was right about more than just documents. My son was disappearing too, piece by piece, until I couldn't recognize the man wearing his face. The morning after the dinner disaster, I couldn't shake the feeling that something darker was happening. May Delaney found me on my apartment balcony at 6:30 in the morning, staring at nothing while my coffee went cold. "You look like someone stole your last dollar," she said, settling into the chair beside me with her own mug, her grey hair still in curlers. Worse. They stole my son. May studied me with those sharp blue eyes that had spotted more fraud than most FBI agents. The Carver girl finally played her hand. They wanted me to apologize for existing, basically. When I refused, they told me to leave. "From the house you bought, the house they think is theirs." I pulled out my phone, showing her a photo I'd snapped while leaving Sloane handing an envelope to a man in the driveway. "But this is what's really bothering me. That's Marcus Webb, a real estate broker known for quick, quiet deals." May enlarged the photo, squinting. "At 9 at night. That's not a normal showing schedule." "Exactly." She was quiet for a moment, then set down her mug with decision. "Eleanor, you need to look into this properly, not just guess no." "How?" "Public records, honey. Everything leaves a paper trail. Property records, tax assessments, mortgage modifications. It's all there if you know where to look." She stood up. "Get dressed. We're going to the county clerk's office." An hour later, we sat in the fluorescent-lit records room, surrounded by the smell of old paper and bureaucracy. May navigated the system like she'd been born to it, pulling up screen after screen. "There," she pointed. "A lien search was run on the property last week by Larkspur Private Equity. Why would an equity firm... Look at this." May pulled up another record. A preliminary title report was ordered. Same company. They're checking if the property has clear title for sale or refinancing. My stomach dropped. "But they can't sell without my signature." "The trust. Unless they're planning to bypass you somehow." May's expression darkened. "Eleanor, you need professional help. I know someone." Harper Quinn didn't look like a private investigator. She looked like someone's yoga instructor, all flowing scarves and organic cotton. But her office walls were covered with commendations from her 20 years as a financial crimes investigator for the state. "Mrs. Whitaker," she said, after reviewing the documents May and I had gathered. You have a serious problem. She spread out papers across her desk like tarot cards revealing a fortune. Your daughter-in-law has been busy. 3 credit cards maxed out. All in her name, but with your son as guarantor. Multiple inquiries from hard money lenders, the kind who don't ask questions if the collateral is good enough. The house is the collateral. Not yet. But look at this. Harper pulled up an email on her tablet. Somehow she'd accessed Sloane's communications with the broker. I didn't ask how. She's promising Webb a signing bonus if he can move the property within 60 days. She's telling him she'll have clear title by then. But that's impossible without... I stopped. Unless Daniel signs something. Or unless you do. Harper's voice was gentle but firm. Has anyone asked you to sign any papers lately? Anything at all? I thought back. Sloane mentioned some trust housekeeping documents a few weeks ago, said it was for tax purposes. I told her to send them to Nolan to review first. She never did. Harper nodded. She's testing boundaries, looking for weakness. She pulled up another document. This is interesting. There's a provision in certain trust modifications that allows for trustee replacement if the trustee is deemed mentally incompetent or acting against the beneficiary's best interests. They're trying to say I'm senile or difficult enough to be removed. Harper leaned back. That dinner, where they wanted you to apologize publicly, that wasn't about hurt feelings. They were setting a stage. If you'd caused a scene, refused in front of witnesses, they'd have ammunition. You're being manipulated, Mrs. Whitaker. The pieces clicked into place like a horrible puzzle. The changed locks establishing I didn't live there. The public humiliation painting me as unreasonable. The demands for apology creating a narrative of family discord. What about Daniel, Josh? I asked, though I dreaded the answer. Is he part of this? Harper pulled up employment records again. I didn't ask how. Your son received a promotion 4 months ago. Big salary increase. But look at the timing right after Sloane's father's bankruptcy was finalized. And look at this. She showed me a bank statement. His bonuses aren't going into their joint account. They're being redirected to an account that only Sloane can access. He doesn't know, or he doesn't want to know. Love makes people blind, Mrs. Whitaker. And your daughter-in-law is very good at managing the narrative. May had been silent throughout, but now she spoke up. What's their next move? Harper shuffled through more papers. Based on this pattern, they'll try one more time to get Eleanor to sign something voluntarily. When that fails, and it will fail, they'll escalate. Either claim she's incompetent or find a way to force her out of the trust entirely. My guess, they're planning something big, something public. The party, I said suddenly. Sloane's been planning a huge charity gala for next month. 300 guests, all their society friends. The perfect audience. For what? I thought about Sloane's calculated cruelty, her need for control, her desperate grab for money she'd never earned. For a final performance, she'll want to destroy me in front of everyone who matters to them. Make it so I can never show my face in their world again. Harper smiled then, and it wasn't a nice smile. Mrs. Whitaker, what if I told you we could flip the script, use their own stage against them? I'm listening. First, we document everything, every transfer, every lie, every manipulation. I'll handle the financial investigation. May, you work your banking contacts, find out exactly what Larkspur Private Equity wants with the property. And Eleanor. She looked at me directly. You need to get that original deed somewhere absolutely secure, and you need to talk to Nolan about the nuclear option, which is, the trust has a provision, doesn't it, about trustee rights in case of beneficiary malfeasance. I nodded slowly. If the beneficiary acts against the trustee's interests or commits fraud related to the trust property, the trustee can revoke occupancy rights with 24 hours' notice. Then we have our weapon, Harper said. Now we just need to choose our moment. As I left Harper's office, plans forming in my mind like storm clouds. My phone buzzed. A text from Sloane. Eleanor, we need to talk about the trust documents. Can you come by tomorrow? Just a signature needed for tax filing. Simple stuff. I texted back. Of course, dear. Happy to help. May read over my shoulder and snorted. The spider thinks the fly is walking into her web. Let her think that, I said, feeling something I hadn't felt in months' power. She's about to learn that sometimes the fly has wings of steel. Harper Quinn worked like a forensic accountant possessed. Within 72 hours, she'd assembled a financial timeline that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. She called me at 11:15 at night, too excited to wait until morning. Eleanor, you need to see this. Can you come to my office? I found her surrounded by printed emails, bank statements, and photographs pinned to a corkboard like evidence in a murder case, which, in a way, it was the murder of trust. Look at this timeline, Harper said, pointing to a color-coded chart. 6 months ago, Sloane opens a personal account at Bayside Credit Union, not their regular bank. Every one of Daniel's bonuses gets transferred there within 2 days of hitting their joint account. She's accumulated $87,000. Daniel's entire bonus structure. I breathed. But here's where it gets interesting. Harper pulled up a screenshot. Email from Sloane to someone named Victoria at Larkspur Private Equity. She's promising a $100,000 investment by year end. She's literally selling your son's future earnings to buy into some scheme. May arrived then, looking grim. I've got worse news. My contact at First National says Larkspur isn't an investment firm. It's a front for a hard money lending operation. They're loan sharks in Armani suits. And Sloane owes them money. Her father owes them money. $3.2 million from a failed development deal. They're calling in family markers. May handed me a folder. The Carvers have 90 days to pay or face criminal fraud charges. Guess whose house is worth just enough to cover it after a quick sale? The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Sloane wasn't just after the house, she was desperate for it. Harper pulled out her laptop. I need to show you something else. This is from a security camera at a coffee shop. The grainy footage showed Sloane meeting with Marcus Webb and another man. That's Tommy Larkspur himself. Watch. Sloane slid papers across the table. The men reviewed them, shook their heads. She pulled out another document, pointing emphatically. Tommy smiled and nodded. Timestamp shows this was 3 days ago, Harper noted. The day before your confrontation at dinner. She was making promises she couldn't keep, I said. Or thought she could keep after that dinner went differently. Harper pulled up another email. This is from Sloane to her attorney. Yes. I have access. Don't ask. She's requesting a template for a trustee resignation letter and a competency challenge form, dated 2 weeks ago. My phone rang. Nolan Rusk's name appeared. Eleanor, I just got an interesting call, he said without preamble. Someone claiming to be from your doctor's office, verifying that you'd been treated for dementia. I told them I'd need to see credentials. They hung up. They're building a false medical case. I've already called your actual doctor. She's prepared to provide comprehensive cognitive evaluations if needed. You're sharp as a razor, and we can prove it. I thanked him and turned back to Harper and May. We need everything documented and duplicated. If they're this desperate. Already done, Harper said, handing me a flash drive. Everything's here, with copies in my safe, May's deposit box, and uploaded to a secure cloud server. I also took the liberty of recording Sloane's meeting at the coffee shop from multiple angles. She doesn't know the owner is my client. May pulled out her phone. My turn for show and tell. Remember that charity gala Sloane's planning? I had lunch with Bitsy Harrison. She's on the planning committee. Sloane's been telling everyone it's also going to be a special announcement about the family's future. She's already hinting at a major real estate investment opportunity for select guests. She's planning to announce the sale at the party. Or use the party to pressure you into signing, Harper said. Public humiliation if you refuse. 300 witnesses to paint you as the villain destroying their marriage and future. I stood up, walking to the window. Below, the city lights twinkled like scattered diamonds. Somewhere out there, my son was probably lying in bed next to a woman who was systematically destroying everything I'd built for him. I need one more piece, I said finally. The modification documents Sloane prepared, the ones she wants me to sign. We need to know exactly what trap she's setting. Harper smiled. Leave that to me. Her lawyer uses the same document service as half the city. My friend owns it. 2 days later, Harper delivered. The documents were worse than I'd imagined. Hidden in 40 pages of legal jargon was a complete restructuring of the trust. Not only would it remove me as trustee, but it would also eliminate the protective provisions, making the property immediately transferable. More insidiously, it included a retroactive clause that would validate any agreements made by the beneficiary's spouse in the previous 6 months. She's already promised the house to Larkspur, I said. This would make that promise legally binding. There's more, Harper said. Page 37, subsection 12. Upon signing, the former trustee agrees to vacate any claim to the property and accepts a one-time payment of $5,000 as complete settlement. She's trying to buy me out for $5,000. The house I put $300,000 into. She's trying to steal it legally, May corrected. Make it look like you agreed to everything. I set the papers down carefully, fighting the urge to tear them to pieces. When does she expect me to sign these? According to her calendar, yes. I have that too. She's planning a family meeting next Tuesday, 2 days before the gala. If you refuse, she has maximum time to spin the story before the party. I looked at my 2 allies, these women who'd become my war council. Then we need to be ready by Tuesday. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence. Harper nodded. I'll have everything compiled into a presentation. Professional, undeniable, and devastating. And I'll make sure certain key people receive mysterious invitations to attend the gala, May added with a wicked smile. The chief of police loves charity events. So does the district attorney's wife. Oh, and that lovely judge who handled the Carver bankruptcy, she never misses a good party. I picked up the original deed, running my fingers over the raised seal. Sloane wants a signature, she'll get one. Just not the one she's expecting. That night, I sat in my small apartment, looking at a photo from Daniel's college graduation. He stood between Sloane and me, his smile genuine, his eyes bright with possibility. When had that light dimmed? When had my son become someone who would choose comfort over conscience? My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Mum, Sloan mentioned you're coming Tuesday to sign papers. Thanks for being reasonable. It means a lot. I typed back, I'll be there. I love you, son. Because I did. I loved him enough to save him from himself, even if he hated me for it. I loved him enough to destroy the illusion he'd wrapped around his life like a comfort blanket. I loved him enough to show him the truth, even if it broke both our hearts. The war room was May's dining table, cleared of her usual collection of African violets and covered instead with implements of revelation. Harper arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, carrying a banker's box that she set down with the reverence of someone handling explosives. Everything's here, she announced, pulling out color-coded folders. Financial timeline in blue, email evidence in red, video stills in green, and the crown jewel. She held up a black folder. Sloane's signed agreement with Larkspur, backdated 6 months. How did you? Tommy Larkspur's assistant has a gambling problem and a very grateful attitude toward the person who helped her avoid prosecution last year. Harper's smile was sharp. She provided this in exchange for my continued silence about her past indiscretions. May studied the agreement. This is damning. She's promising to deliver the Westlake Ridge property free and clear in exchange for clearing her father's debt, plus a finder's fee of $200,000. She's selling my house and paying herself for the privilege, I said, disgust rising in my throat. We need to make sure this information reaches the right eyes at the right moment, Harper said, pulling out her laptop. I've prepared a digital presentation. Clean, professional, impossible to misinterpret. But we need more than just evidence. We need witnesses who can't be dismissed or discredited. May's phone rang. She listened, smiled, and hung up. Judge Catherine Reeves just RSVP'd for the gala. She's bringing the district attorney and his wife. Perfect. Harper pulled up a seating chart on her screen. Sloan has them at table 12, back corner. We need them closer to the action. Leave that to me, May said. Bitsy Harrison owes me 3 favors. Time to collect. I picked up a printed email between Sloan and her lawyer. This mentions a safe in the house. She keeps the originals there. Master bedroom closet. Harper confirmed. Behind a false panel, the combination is her wedding date. She's not creative. You've been in my house. I've had eyes in your house. The cleaning service Sloan uses. The owner's daughter is my goddaughter. She noticed the safe months ago when Sloan left it open during a massage appointment. May pulled out a small device that looked like a USB drive. Speaking of technology, this is a streaming camera, completely legal if the homeowner consents to recording. And since you're still technically the homeowner, we're recording the gala. We're broadcasting it, Harper corrected. Live stream to a private server. Full backup in real time. If things go sideways, we have indisputable evidence of everything that happens. I thought about the implications. Sloan hired a media company for the event. Professional cameras everywhere. Even better, May said. We'll tap into their feed. My nephew works in event production. He'll make sure we have access to every angle. Harper spread out photos from the coffee shop meeting. Now, let's talk about the confrontation itself. Sloan will expect you to be alone, vulnerable. We need to position our assets without alerting her. I'll arrive early, May suggested. As a guest. Mingling. I'll have the camera on me. And I'll come as your +1. Eleanor, Harper said. Introduced as your financial advisor if anyone asks. What about Nolan? Already arranged. He'll be at table 3 with his wife, close enough to witness everything but not so close as to seem staged. Harper pulled out a timeline. The gala starts at 7, cocktails until 8, then dinner. Sloane usually makes her announcements during dessert. We need to strike before she controls the narrative. My phone buzzed. Another text from Daniel. Mom, Tuesday at 2, Sloane has the papers ready. Should only take a few minutes. I showed it to my conspirators. He really believes this will be simple. He's about to learn otherwise, May said. Eleanor, you need to get into that safe before the gala. We need those original documents Sloane's been hoarding. Breaking and entering. Visiting your son? Harper corrected. You still have a legal right to access the property as trustee. If you happen to discover evidence of fraud while there... I thought about it. Daniel has a site inspection Thursday afternoon. He'll be gone from 1 until at least 5. Sloane has her standing spa appointment at 2. Perfect. Harper pulled out another folder. Now, let's rehearse. May, you'll play Sloane. I'll be the crowd. Eleanor, you need to be ready for every possible counterattack she might launch. We spent the next 4 hours running scenarios. Sloane claiming I was senile countered with medical records. Sloane saying I'd agreed verbally to transfer the property countered with the requirement for written, notarized consent. Sloane playing the victim. Crying about family betrayal countered with her own emails planning my removal. She'll get vicious when cornered, May warned. I've seen her type. When the mask drops. It's ugly. Let her, I said, feeling a cold calm settle over me. The uglier she gets, the clearer the truth becomes. Harper's phone chimed. She read the message and laughed. Tommy Larkspur just confirmed his attendance at the gala. He's bringing 3 associates. He's coming to collect, May observed. He's coming to watch his investment materialize. I corrected. But all he'll see is it evaporate. That evening, alone in my apartment, I practiced in the mirror. Not what I would say that would come naturally, but how I would stand. Shoulders back, chin up. The posture of a woman who'd built her life one 16-hour shift at a time and wasn't about to let anyone tear it down. The phone rang. Daniel. Hi, Mum. Just wanted to make sure you're okay with Tuesday. Sloane's been stressed about getting everything sorted before the gala. I understand, I said carefully. Big announcements require proper documentation. Exactly. She's got some exciting investment opportunities lined up. This could really set us up for the future. Daniel, I said softly. Do you know what she's asking me to sign? A pause. Trust modifications, tax stuff. She handles all that she's better with paperwork. Have you read them? Mom, I trust my wife. Is that so hard to understand? Yes. I wanted to scream. Yes. When she's stealing your future and using your love as a weapon. Instead, I said, I'll see you Tuesday. Thanks. Mom. And maybe after all this is sorted, we can go back to normal. Family dinners, like before. Nothing will be like before, I said, and hung up before he could hear the tears in my voice. Harper texted me a final checklist, safe combination, confirmed. Judge and DA confirmed media access, arranged Nolan on standby, evidence packets prepared, camera positioned backup plans, A through F ready. I added my own item to the list. Original deed in hand, Tuesday would be the warm-up. The gala would be the main event. And Sloane Carver was about to discover that the woman she'd dismissed as a worn-out relic from Daniel's past was actually the architect of her future. A future that involved learning exactly what happened when you tried to steal from someone who'd spent their entire life fighting for everything they had. The brown envelope sat on my kitchen table, innocent-looking, patient. 3 more days, and the truth would have its moment. The Westlake Ridge Country Club glowed like a jewel box, every surface reflecting candlelight and crystal. I stood at the entrance in the burgundy dress May had insisted I buy, elegant, understated, expensive enough that Sloane couldn't claim I'd embarrassed them with my appearance. Eleanor. Sloane's voice cut through the cocktail chatter like a blade wrapped in silk. She glided over in a white gown that probably cost more than most people's cars, Daniel trailing behind in his tuxedo. I wasn't sure you'd come. I RSVP'd, didn't I? I kept my voice pleasant, noting how her eyes flickered to my purse, the same brown leather bag I always carried. Yes, but after Tuesday. She let the sentence hang, a masterpiece of implied accusation. Tuesday. When I'd sat in their living room, read through 40 pages of legal theft, and said I needed time to consider. She'd been so certain I'd sign immediately that my hesitation had cracked her perfect composure. I needed to review everything with my advisor, I said simply. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Mom, this is supposed to be a celebration. Can we just… Of course, darling. I touched his arm, feeling him relax slightly. This is your night. Sloane's smile could have etched glass. Our night. We have such exciting news to share with everyone. She leaned in conspiratorially. I hope you'll be happy for us when you hear. May appeared at my elbow, resplendent in navy blue. Eleanor, dear, you must see who's here. Judge Reeves is dying to catch up. Sloane's eyes narrowed slightly at the mention of the judge, but she recovered quickly. How lovely. We've seated you at table 8, Eleanor, near the back, where it's quieter. We thought you'd be more comfortable there. Actually, Bitsy Harrison materialized with perfect timing. I've reorganized the seating. Eleanor, you're at table 2 now, right up front. We need our family members visible for the photographer. The seating was finalized. Sloane started. Oh, I cleared it with the committee. Bitsy's smile was sugar-sweet poison. May mentioned Eleanor's significant contribution to the charity, and we simply had to acknowledge it properly. I hadn't made any contribution, but I appreciated May's creative intervention. Harper joined us, introduced simply as Ms. Quinn, my financial advisor. Sloane's handshake was perfunctory, but I saw her clock Harper's designer suit and Cartier watch costume jewelry. Harper had confessed, but convincing enough. Shall we find our seats? Harper suggested. I believe they're about to serve dinner. The ballroom was Sloane's vision, made manifest white orchids and gold accents. A stage with professional lighting, screens positioned for everyone to see whatever presentation she'd planned. The media crew she'd hired was already filming, capturing the glittering crowd. I spotted Tommy Larkspur at table 5, his shark's smile visible even from across the room. His 3 associates looked like they'd stepped out of a mafia movie. Expensive suits couldn't hide the predator underneath. Judge Reeves caught my eye and nodded. The district attorney was deep in conversation with the police chief. All the players were in position. Dinner passed in a blur of small talk and careful maneuvering. Sloane worked the room like a politician, laying groundwork for whatever announcement she'd planned. Daniel followed in her wake, his smile increasingly strained as the evening wore on. As dessert arrived, chocolate souffle with gold leaf, because of course Sloane took the stage. The lights dimmed, focusing attention on her luminous figure. "Good evening, everyone. Daniel and I are so grateful you could join us tonight for this special celebration." Applause rippled through the room. I kept my hands still. As many of you know, the Whittaker family has called Westlake Ridge home for several years now. My family name in her mouth sounded like ownership. And tonight, we're excited to announce the next chapter in our journey. She clicked a remote, and the screens lit up with images of the house, my house, bought with my retirement money. But in these photos, it looked different, staged, empty of the life I'd helped build there. We're pleased to announce that we'll be partnering with Larkspur Private Equity to develop the Whittaker property into an exclusive investment opportunity luxury condominiums that will redefine elegant living in Westlake Ridge. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. I felt May's hand grip my arm, steadying me. "But first," Sloane continued, her voice honeyed with false concern, "we need to address a family matter. Eleanor, would you join me on stage?" Every eye in the room turned to me. This was it, her moment of calculated humiliation. Stand up there and sign, or refuse, and be painted as the villain destroying their future. I rose slowly, Harper and May flanking me like bodyguards. As I walked to the stage, I pulled the brown envelope from my purse. "Eleanor has been such an important part of our lives," Sloane said as I climbed the steps. "Which is why we wanted to handle the trust transfer publicly, transparently, with all of you as witnesses to this generous gesture." She produced her own folder, the 40 pages of legal manipulation she'd tried to force on me Tuesday. "Actually," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the wireless mic someone had handed me, "I have something to say first." Sloane's smile flickered, but held. "Of course. Family should always have their say." I looked out at the assembled crowd, society mavens, business leaders, legal professionals. Daniel stood frozen by his table, confusion clear on his face. "I came here tonight to apologize," I began, hearing Sloane's sharp intake of breath, her premature triumph. "I need to apologize to my son." I turned to Daniel. "I'm sorry I enabled this deception for so long. I'm sorry I let my love for you blind me to what was happening." I pulled out the deed. "And I'm sorry that tonight, in front of everyone, I have to show you the truth." "What are you doing?" Sloane hissed, reaching for my microphone. Harper stepped forward, her phone already recording. "She's protecting her property rights. I'd advise you not to interfere with a legal declaration." I held up the deed. "This house that Sloane is so eager to develop, it's not hers to develop. It's not even Daniel's. It belongs to the Whittaker Family Trust, and I am the sole trustee." "That's a technicality," Sloane started. "That's the law," Judge Reeves said, standing up from her table. "And I should know. I reviewed that trust document myself when it was established." The room erupted in whispers. Tommy Larkspur was on his feet, his face darkening as he realized his $3.2 million deal was evaporating. "But there's more," I continued, pulling out Harper's meticulously prepared folder. "Over the past 6 months, Sloane has been systematically transferring Daniel's bonuses to her personal accounts. She's been negotiating to sell property she doesn't own to cover debts that aren't even hers. They're her father's." The screens behind me still showed images of my house, but Harper had taken control of the media team's laptop. With a click, the display changed bank statements, emails, timestamps, a forensic financial trail that told its own devastating story. These are lies. Sloane's composure finally cracked, her voice shrill. This bitter old woman is trying to destroy our marriage because she can't let go of her son. I stayed calm, my voice steady. These are your bank statements. Sloane, your emails to Tommy Larkspur, promising him my house for your father's debts. Your signature on a backdated agreement to sell property you never owned. The crowd was riveted. Phones appeared, recording everything. The media crew Sloane had hired to document her triumph was now capturing her downfall. Harper stepped to another microphone. As Mrs. Whitaker's financial advisor, I can confirm every document shown has been verified. We have copies for law enforcement if needed. She glanced meaningfully at the police chief. Tommy Larkspur stormed toward the stage. We had a deal. Mrs. Carver. You assured me. The only deal you have, I interrupted, is with someone who was selling you property theft. I'd be very careful about pursuing it. Mr. Larkspur. Conspiracy to commit fraud carries serious penalties. Daniel finally moved, climbing onto the stage. His face was pale, his hands shaking. Mum, what are you doing? What I should have done months ago. I handed him a folder. Your bonuses, Daniel, every one of them, transferred out of your joint account within 48 hours. Check the signatures. Check the dates. He opened it, his expression crumbling as he read. Sloane. She grabbed his arm. Baby, don't listen to her. She's twisting everything. You know how manipulative she can be. Manipulative. May's voice rang out from the crowd. She held up her phone. I have a recording from Tuesday's meeting. Should we play it for everyone? Let them hear you coaching Daniel on how to convince his mother she's going senile. That's illegal. Sloane spat. Actually, the district attorney stood up. In this state, recording is legal if one party consents, and since Mrs. Whitaker was that party. Nolan Rusk approached the stage, briefcase in hand. If I may add some legal clarity here. He pulled out a document. The Whitaker Family Trust includes a specific provision, Section 7, Paragraph 4. In the event of attempted fraud or coercion against the trustee has the immediate right to revoke residency privileges. I took the document from him, holding it up. Sloane Carver, as of this moment, you are no longer welcome in my house. You have 24 hours to remove your belongings. You can't do that. She lunged toward me, but Daniel caught her arm. Stop, he said quietly, and something in his voice made her freeze. He was looking at the bank statements, the emails, the evidence of months of deception. You told me the transfers were for investments. You said we were building our future. We were. We are. She turned to him, tears forming perfectly in her eyes. Baby, I did this for us. My father's debts were destroying my family. I had to. You had to steal from my mother. You had to steal from me. The media cameras captured every second. Tommy Larkspur was already heading for the exit, his associates following. He knew a sinking ship when he saw one. I pulled out the final document, the one that would end this completely. There's one more thing, Sloane. You've been so eager for me to sign something tonight. So I will. I placed the paper on the podium, took Nolan's pen, and signed with a flourish. This is a formal notice of trust modification. Not the one you prepared, the one my lawyer prepared. It permanently removes any possibility of Daniel inheriting the property while married to you. If he wants his inheritance, he'll need to choose the house his mother bought with 30 years of sacrifice, or the woman who tried to steal it. The room was dead silent. Sloane's mask finally shattered completely. You vicious old bitch, you've ruined everything. That house should be ours. Daniel deserves better than some pathetic inheritance from a construction worker playing dress-up. There it was, the real Sloane, captured in high definition by her own hired cameras. I earned every penny that bought that house, I said quietly, but the microphone carried my words to every corner of the room. 16-hour shifts, night work, holidays, weekends. I built my son's future with these hands. I held them up, still showing the calluses that never quite faded. And I'll be damned if I let you tear it down with your manicured claws. Daniel stood between us, looking lost. Mom, I didn't know. You didn't want to know, I corrected gently. But now you do. The question is, what are you going to do about it? He turned to Sloane, and for a moment I saw my son again, the real one, the one who'd existed before she'd wrapped him in her web. Is it true? He asked her. All of it. She straightened, defiance replacing desperation. I did what I had to do. You think your precious mother is so noble. She's been controlling you your whole life through that trust. At least I was trying to free us. By stealing from her. By stealing from me. He pulled off his wedding ring, staring at it. By turning me into someone who would throw his mother out of the house she paid for. Daniel, don't be dramatic. He handed her the ring. 24 hours. Sloane. Be out by then. The room erupted. Sloane grabbed for the microphone, trying to salvage something, but the police chief was already on stage, gently but firmly escorting her away from the equipment. This isn't over, she screamed as she was led off stage. I'll sue. I'll take everything. With what? Harper called out. The lawyer you've been emailing. He withdrew from your case an hour ago when we sent him the evidence package. Turns out he doesn't want to risk his license for a confirmed fraud. The cameras tracked Sloane's exit, her white dress billowing behind her like a deflated parachute, her society friends stepping back to avoid contamination by association. I turned back to the crowd. These people who'd come for a show and gotten more than they'd bargained for. I apologize for the disruption to your evening, but I don't apologize for protecting what's mine, what I built, what I earned. I started to leave the stage, but Daniel caught my hand. Mom, he said into the microphone, his voice broken. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I pulled him into a hug, feeling him shake with sobs. I know, baby. We'll figure it out. But first, you need to figure out who you are without her. As we stood there, mother and son in the spotlight of truth, I heard something unexpected applause. It started with May, then Harper, then Judge Reeves. Soon, the entire room was clapping, some even standing. I looked out at them. These people who'd witnessed my humiliation transformed into my vindication and said the words I'd been planning all week. The house key will be with Nolan Rusk. Daniel. When you're ready to come home, really ready, you can pick it up from him. Then I walked off that stage, my head high, my purpose fulfilled. Behind me, I heard Daniel call out, but I didn't stop. The truth had been served, cold and precise as revenge should be. And somewhere in the night, Sloane Carver was learning what happened when you tried to steal from a woman who'd built her life one impossible day at a time. The ballroom felt different without Sloane's presence lighter somehow, as if her toxic energy had been sucking the oxygen from the room. I stood by the exit, my hand on the door handle, when I heard the distinctive click of expensive heels behind me. 3 women approached wives of Daniel's colleagues, women who'd always treated me with polite distance at Sloane's instruction. Margaret Brennan reached me first. "Eleanor," she said quietly. "We knew something was wrong. The way she spoke about you when you weren't there, it was cruel. We should have said something." "You couldn't have changed anything," I told her. "This had to come from Daniel." Through the glass doors, I could see Sloane in the parking lot, screaming into her phone, mascara streaming down her face. Tommy Larkspur's car was pulling away, leaving her standing alone under the valet lights. No one was coming to rescue the fallen princess. Daniel appeared beside me, his bow tie undone, his face raw from crying. "Mum? Can we talk? Please?" I looked at my son, really looked at him for the first time in months. The ambitious shine Sloane had polished onto him was gone, leaving behind someone older, sadder, but perhaps finally awake. "Not tonight," I said gently. "You need to go home and figure out what's really yours and what was hers. The house is yours to use until you decide what comes next. But Sloane doesn't set foot in it after tomorrow noon." "Where will you stay?" "In my apartment, where I've been living since you two made it clear I wasn't welcome." I touched his cheek. "Daniel, I love you. That's never changed. But love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you, even if that someone is your own child." Harper and May joined us, May carrying my coat. "The police chief wants a word," Harper said. "He's very interested in those Larkspur documents." I nodded, then turned back to Daniel. "Your father would have been heartbroken to see what happened tonight, but he would have been proud that you finally stood up for what's right." "I don't even know how to start fixing this," he said desperately. "Start by reading every document you've signed in the last 2 years. Start by checking every account, every transaction. Start by asking yourself who you were before she convinced you to become someone else." I pulled on my coat. "And Daniel. The locked room in the basement, the one Sloane turned into storage. Your father's tools are still there. Maybe it's time you remembered how to build something with your own hands." Judge Reeves intercepted us at the door. "Eleanor, that was quite a performance, though I suspect it wasn't a performance at all." "Every word was the truth, Your Honor." She smiled. "I know. I've seen enough fraud cases to recognize the real thing. If you need any legal support going forward, my husband's firm would be happy to assist pro bono. What that woman attempted was criminal." Outside, the valet brought my car around my 10-year-old Honda, looking shabby among the luxury vehicles, but paid for in cash. Owned outright. Mine. As I drove away, I saw Sloane in my rearview mirror, still standing under the lights, her white dress glowing like a ghost of the future she'd never have. May called me at 11:45 that night. "Turn on Channel 7. The news was already running the story. Dramatic confrontation at charity gala exposes alleged property fraud." The footage was crystal clear. Sloane's meltdown, her admission, her final, venomous revelation of her true nature. "By tomorrow morning, everyone in the state will know what she tried to do," May said with satisfaction. At 6 a.m, my phone rang. "Daniel." "She's gone," he said. his voice hollow. Left in the middle of the night. Took everything she could carry, including things that weren't hers. Mum. She even took Dad's watch, the one from his father. Let her have it, I said. It's just a thing. Your father's real legacy isn't something she could steal. Can I come over? Not yet. You're not ready yet. It took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of Daniel going to therapy, reviewing financial records, discovering the depth of Sloane's deception. 6 weeks of him working with prosecutors building a case against the Larkspur organization. 6 weeks of him learning to be alone in that big house, understanding finally what I'd paid for it. On a Thursday afternoon, he appeared at my apartment door. He was wearing work clothes, jeans, and a flannel shirt I hadn't seen in years. There was dirt under his fingernails. I've been in Dad's workshop, he said, building a bookshelf. It's terrible, completely lopsided, but it's mine. He held out his hand. In his palm was a key, the house key. Nolan said I was ready to pick this up. But Mom, I don't want it. My heart clenched. Daniel, I want you to have it. It's your house. It's always been your house. I want to earn my own way, build my own life. The real way, not the Sloane way. He pressed the key into my hand. I've applied for a transfer to the Seattle office. Smaller salary, but honest work. Clean slate. And the house. Sell it. Use the money to travel, to live, to do whatever you never could because you were too busy sacrificing for me. His eyes filled with tears. I'm 32 years old, and I'm finally ready to grow up. I pulled my son into my arms, feeling him collapse against me like he had when he was small and the world was too big and frightening. I'm proud of you, I whispered. Mom, he said against my shoulder. That night at the gala, were you scared? I thought about it, about standing on that stage with everyone watching, about destroying the facade in front of 300 witnesses. No, I said honestly. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't scared at all. The truth doesn't need courage. It just needs to be told. We stood in my doorway, mother and son, both of us finally free from the golden cage Sloane had tried to build around our lives. The key in my hand wasn't just metal and ridges, it was vindication. It was justice. It was proof that sometimes, when someone tries to steal your life, the best revenge is simply taking it back. As Daniel left that day, promising to call me from Seattle, I looked at the brown envelope still sitting on my kitchen table. The deed was back in the safe deposit box where it belonged. But the envelope remained a reminder that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't what you carry, but what you're willing to reveal when the moment comes. Sloane Carver disappeared completely, eventually arrested 6 months later for embezzlement at her new job in Florida. She'd learned nothing, but Daniel had learned everything. And me, I sold the house to a lovely young family who actually planned to live in it, not leverage it. The profit, combined with my restored retirement fund, was more than enough. I bought a condo with an ocean view, where the sound of waves replaced the memory of Sloane's clicking heels, where every sunset reminded me that endings could be beautiful, and where the only key that mattered was the one I carried to a home that was truly, legally, and forever mine. The truth had set us all free, exactly as it was meant to. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it resonated with those of you who've ever had to stand up for yourselves against someone who tried to take what was rightfully yours. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect with each other. If this story moved you, Please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts and experiences. Sometimes the best revenge really is just revealing the truth.